Good morning on this May 8th, 2013. Recently, I participated in a climate change conference at the East West Center, University of Hawaii. I attended with perhaps 20 youth from Kaimuki High School. We collectively volunteered to video interview the speakers at the conference. The conference was dealing with issues of climate change in the Pacific region. So the speakers would deliver their talks to fellow adults, and then they would come to see the youth, who would sit them down and video record them. We had a set of questions to ask. One of the questions was, what could we as young people do that is tangible to improve the environment? Two of the speakers immediately suggested that young people could plant trees. They added not the ornamental trees that you see around the condominiums and apartments. Plant the giving trees. Well, I could connect with that. I've read Shel Silverstein. I know giving trees. At least I think I do. Yesterday morning, before preparing this talk, I was reading a newspaper. Will Rogers, by the way, often said that most everything he knew about the world he got out of the newspaper. I'm no Will Rogers, but I do try to read a paper. So in USA Today yesterday morning was a front page article entitled, "It Could Be Kids Shall Never See a Lovely Poem, an Ode to Trees." The article starts like this: "Your hands were wet, your mouth was dry, it had taken days to memorize, and now you had to stand in front of the entire class and deliver. And so you recited, 'I think that I shall never see a poem lovely as a tree.'" So begins Joyce Kilmer's Trees, the most famous, most beloved, most parodied American poem of the 20th century. At one time I did memorize that poem along with countless thousands of American children. As my mother memorized it, so some 30 years later did I. It was part of the American curriculum. The article continues to say that perhaps memorization is a dying art. Now we are pushing critical thinking, creativity, innovation, collaboration. Perhaps the old art of memorizing a poem and standing to deliver is passé, but it wasn't for me and mine. Joyce Kilmer is a man, by the way, named Joyce. He was certainly an idealist, volunteered to enter the armed forces soon after writing this poem. World War I, he was killed not long before the end of the war. He was shot by a sniper in Germany, which perhaps added to the mystique of this poem. So today I thought maybe I would briefly honor trees. If you haven't read The Giving Tree, or if it's been a while, I encourage you to do so. It's a complicated poem in a simple form about a little boy who plays in the branches of a tree. The tree loves that. The boy becomes a teenager, wants to earn money, so the tree lets him have apples to sell. In his adulthood, he wants to build a house. The tree gives him limbs to build the house. In middle age, he wants to depart. The tree gives him the trunk to build a ship. And then in his old age, he returns and he's tired. He walks back to the place of the tree, and the tree says, "You're tired. You can sit on my stump." Thus endeth the giving tree. I wanted to acknowledge a friend, Professor Fred Bale, who retired a couple of years ago. I miss you, Fred. Fred used to drop by my office with gunny sacks of breadfruit. He'd pick them from his tree in the yard. Breadfruit are a messy fruit. Messy. The sap is very sticky, gooey. So he'd bring gunny sacks of breadfruit so that I could pass them on to the Pacific Islander students who hang with me. Thank you, Fred. This year, we graduated with a PhD, the first female from the island state of Chuuk in the Federated States of Micronesia. Her name is Margarita Cholome. I had the honor of being on her committee. Her chair was Pauline Chin. Margarita's last name is Cholome. It means breadfruit. Breadfruit is sacred on her island. Several years ago, I had the opportunity to fly to Chuuk to visit islands in the lagoon. I had an opportunity to film men pounding breadfruit. Amazing. Breadfruit reached the Hawaiian Islands near 750 AD. The trunk was used to make surfboards, drums, canoe parts, and poi boards. It was used for house construction and furniture making. The inner bark lent itself as a tapa cloth. Leaves were used to polish utensils, bowls, and kukui nuts for leis. The young buds were a medicine for mouth and throat. The white sticky sap became glue, caulking, chewing gum, and medicine. And of course, breadfruit filled the stomach. The legendary origin of the breadfruit was contributed by the god Kuka Ilimoku. During a time of famine, he buried himself in the ground, later to emerge as a healthy breadfruit tree. "Eat some. Feed our kids," he told his mortal wife. This is the poem by Joyce Kilmer, the one that I recited for Mrs. Smith in grade 9, and yes, palms were sweating. I think that I shall never see a poem as lovely as a tree. A tree whose hungry mouth is pressed against the earth's sweet flowing breast. A tree that looks at God all day and lifts her leafy arms to pray. A tree that may, in summer, wear a nest of robins in her hair. upon whose bosom snow has lain, who intimately lives with rain. Poems are made by fools like me, but only God can make a tree. This poem has been the subject of a great deal of parody. Many people haven't really liked the poem. I'm not sure what I think, but I know I enjoyed Ogden Nash, who wrote, "I think that I shall never see a billboard lovely as a tree. Perhaps, unless the billboards fall, I'll never see a tree at all." So I wanted to end this acknowledging and recognizing Buddy Bernisky. He was my good friend. He and I came on board at the college at the same time in 2002. He died way too young. I think he was 42 years old. He was an adventurer who encouraged me to teach from lived experience. Teach what you know, he would say. He also encouraged me to write my own stories. He helped me, in fact, to publish my first article in the college on the track to tenure. So yeah, I'm including this picture of R.W. Buddy Bernisky, taken not too long before his death, quoting Dr. Seuss. Out there, things can happen, and frequently do, to people as brainy and footsy as you.